Thank you for tuning into the Model Connection podcast. I am your host, Eric Harrell. Please like, follow, and subscribe on social media and everywhere you get your podcast. Links are in the description. With us today is a very special guest.
Hey, my name is Chuckie Arlund. Very excited to be here on the Model Connection podcast. I'm a photographer, musician, sort of. Nashville, Murfreesboro. I live here in Murfreesboro. Just really excited to be here and talk about photography.
Okay, Chuckie, thank you for being my guest on this episode of the Model Connection podcast. He is so glad to have you here, okay?
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So now, tell me about yourself.
Well, I was born.
That's how it all began.
I go straight to the jerk. I just dated myself too with that one. No, I'm a photographer.
Okay.
I'm kind of a. I don't know. I'm a photographer.
Photographer. Okay, how long have you been doing photography?
I've been serious about it since 1987.
1987,
So
okay.
do the math on that. I started taking pictures in 1978.
Okay.
So.
And your first camera, if you remember,
that was
it
a
was
Pentax ME Super.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course. I had it for years.
Okay.
Yeah, then I bought another one, and they both broke, and they're hard to get fixed.
Yes, they are. You toss them, buy you another one.
Yeah, something like that. It was thankfully, but I think I stopped using the second ME Super. Oh boy, it would have been 1997. I think this is when I finally got a manual Pentax.
Okay.
I forget what the I don't even know what it was. It was it's still film camera.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such an upgrade up from the old ME Super. I mean, this is like something from the 70s.
Okay.
And I got that in 97, and I remember having the worst gear envy ever. Do you know what gear envy is?
Yeah.
I tell my students don't have gear envy because it doesn't make a difference. But I had gear envy because I would see all these guys in school with their fancy Nikons and Hasselblads and, oh my gosh, alike.
Yeah.
And I'm like here with this little old, it's like the basic of basic cameras. And I had that up until I really got my first, call it professional camera in 2000.
Okay.
Now, I've been shooting since 88.
Right.
And then my first professional camera was a Pentax 645.
Okay.
So, and once I hit medium format, I've never shot, well, up until 4 years ago, I haven't shot 35 millimeter since. But I'm doing a project with 35 millimeter on purpose. So
I thought at one time I wanted to try medium format, and then the digital age come along, and then okay, I started shooting all digital. So the medium format I've never tried.
Oh, there's something to it. It looks different.
Yeah,
it really does.
Yes,
and large format. In school we did a lot of 4x5 and stuff like that.
How do you classify your brand of photography? All over the board.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. So one of my mentors, I think he had the perfect word for me. He called me a chameleon, meaning I kind of fit, and for a long time I fit in wherever.
Okay.
And it's hurt me, and I've learned something from this. And I don't know if I agree with it or not. I remember being at this was in, oh boy, I'm bad with dates, late 2000s. Possibly 2007, 2008. Okay. I went to a portfolio review up in New York and met with the editor of Italian Vogue. And we're looking through my portfolio.
Okay.
And she kind of looked at me after about the third picture. And she turned the picture, she kept flipping through this portfolio. Mm-hmm. And every picture seemed to be this inquisitive look on her face. And she goes, "Who are you?" Meaning, and this is the best way it described, and I changed kind of my style after this too. And I kind of equated it to, I always equate everything back to music. I was kind of like a cover band.
Okay.
So she goes, I don't know who you are because every picture is different. Every picture kind of reminds me of something else. Like I'm not expecting this.
Right.
Then all of a sudden I turn the page and it's like, oh, what's this? And so it was like, you're kind of like a cover band. Like you play other people's stuff really well. Where's your originals? If that makes any sense at all.
It does, but then in my mind, by being a chameleon would make you more
marketable.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
you can do everything.
Yes and no. So I don't think in the professional commercial world that's necessarily the case. And I think it's good for smaller markets because you're able to do what the client wants. But I think in order to get into the bigger markets, you need to have your own style that people want to go after instead of chasing a style. And that's kind of what I learned from that meeting was maybe, and be it in the mid 2000s, the little bit of fashion I was shooting here in Nashville was kind of like, we need something that looks like Ellen Von Unworth. We need something that looks like Herb Ritz. We need something that looks like, Patrick Dumarchelier. I'm like, okay. And well, where's Chuck there? I don't know. I think I'm just a little bit of all of that. I bring my influences just like a musician would. I just don't, it's taken me a long time to develop my style. And I don't even know what my style is because it's so all over the place.
Okay. So, if I am understanding you correctly, they wanted you to have your style and not show them or prove to them that you can shoot this style or that style.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can understand that, but then I would also like knowing that you could also do this style, that style.
Well, of course, but I think, like I said, Italian Vogue.
Yeah.
We've already got
yeah. Okay.
We need. What are you?
Yeah.
Because if I need, that, I can just go to that person.
Yeah.
So that's, and it was great for me because it was my first portfolio review I ever did. I was just curious to have somebody that you've probably always, all my friends tell me I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
I want someone that I respect to tell me I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
right, your peers, you might say.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. She goes, this photograph, which I actually really liked, she goes, this should just be out of your portfolio. And I remember shocking her. And I'm like, okay, I pulled it out and just ripped it up in front of her. Because I just I don't care about that. It's like, it's a photograph.
Yeah.
And it's not that big of a deal. It's like,
you have another copy of it back home anyhow.
Well, and also I appreciated her opinion.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you don't think that should be, you're in a position I need to listen to.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
And I think that's something that you can't have an ego. And you should always constantly be learning. That's why I think my style is just, every time I go out and shoot, it's something different, just to keep myself entertained, if that makes any sense.
Sure. Okay. Your working includes concerts, weddings, models. What do you prefer shooting? What are you more comfortable in shooting?
My favorite thing to photograph are rock musicians.
Okay.
I'm a rock musician.
I would love that.
I feel like, do you like stories?
Sure.
The rock band Skid Row. Have you ever heard of them? Okay.
Sure.
I get a call to photograph them a few years ago. And this is what I mean by this. The bass player, Rachel Boland, he goes, I have this idea. Can you execute it? I'm like, well, what's the idea? Let's see. He goes, well, I want to be in some kind of setup where I'm diffusing a bomb. And maybe one of the guitar players is playing the knife game, on his fingers.
Yeah.
Like
fingers in the knife, okay.
Like on a Bible.
Yeah.
And then I've got the other guitar player playing catch with a skeleton dog. And then maybe the singer's playing chess with nobody. And then maybe our drummer's like doing magic tricks and throwing cards up in the air. Now, can you put all that in one picture and make it look cohesive? And I read that and I'm like, yes. Yes, I can, and this is awesome because it's so much better than. Can we go out into a field? Yeah, and or just to the studio, and then another band, Bista Blanco, who is Alice Cooper's daughter and his bass player, Calico Cooper. They had this idea where they were doing these this tour in the winter in Sweden. They needed these pictures of the two of them, kind of like Vikings in snow, but also kind of like he was Santa Claus, but this evil Santa Claus, or barbarian Santa Claus. It's not evil. It's not evil at all. And we were able to do that all in the studio and make it very. I mean, after I was done photographing, I was like, "Oh, this is cool," and I'm like, "Did I shoot that?" And it's just the rock musicians tend to have, and she was, and I can't say enough about Calico Cooper because they let me. Okay, after we're done with this, can we just run out into the forest and I'm going to bring, I call it murder fabric.
Yeah.
You know what that is? You see a lot of photo shoots with this now. Murder fabric. That's a shower curtain.
Okay, yeah, this murder fabric. Okay, I get it now. Okay.
It's a joke.
yeah,
But
okay.
she's like, so
Dwayne, I got it.
we hung this shower curtain up in between trees and had her pushing through it. And,
Yeah.
But just to like, hey, let's go run out into a forest and just go see what we can get ourselves into.
Okay.
Most in fact, most photo shoots that I've witnessed, I'm not like this. I'm kind of, I don't do my photo shoots don't consist of craft services. Really don't consist of tethering. Can we just take some pictures?
Yeah.
In fact, can we get rid of all the people and a lot of times the best pictures I get are when I say, you come with me, we're going to run around the building.
Yeah.
Without anybody, where we can just be ourselves and not, we're kind of this corporate atmosphere type of, that a photo shoot kind of exists. Maybe that's why I don't get hired that much, but maybe that's why the people that do like me keep coming back to me. I do like to get stuff done quick. I don't like to waste anybody's time. So, that's kind of my approach to that, but that's my favorite, to answer your question. Then my artwork would be my second. And that it differs, between what series I'm working on.
Artwork. How did you get started artwork?
Well, I became a photographer, like really seriously becoming a photographer by looking at the work of Herb Ritz and Robert Mapplethorpe back when I was right out of high school.
Okay.
And went to the Kansas City Art Institute, which is art school, which I lasted a semester because I joined a rock band during the semester, and then the next 5 years were that. But there was something about it was a lot of fashion-y images, but in an artistic way. So and then seeing a Herb Ritz exhibition was pretty incredible. And then just going and looking at art. I've always loved art. Really, the reason I became a photographer is because I couldn't draw. When I was 16, we were always drawing and painting. I was terrible at it, yet I was an artist. So, but my friends and peers were exceeding. I can't do that. I can't do that. And my girlfriend at the time, her father was a pretty kind of famous Midwestern artist and ran like the art fairs in Kansas City, where I'm from. And he's like, you're trying to draw so realistically. Why don't you just be a photographer? And I hadn't even thought about it because I thought at the time, well, photography is an art. I didn't know any better. And that was kind of an epiphany to, wow, I can just be a photographer. And now I can start seeing what I'm envisioning using this equipment rather than the brush and the pencil.
Yes.
And so that's the reason I became a photographer. I'm not, I know it's interesting. In photography, you've got a lot of the mechanical side, very, it's almost like a science, the scientist like the photography. And then you've got the art side. I'm definitely on the art side of it. I don't talk mechanical that much. I can, but I don't like to.
Right. Where do you get your inspiration for your photographs?
Acid. I'm kidding. I've never done. I've never done. I have to say, I've never done a drug in my life. I've only been drunk twice. I'm the guy that drove all my friends around. So, but it is funny. I just always had. I think I've had a creative mind ever since I was a little kid. It was nurtured that way. My family was, pretty creative, but my imagination was encouraged. So, I mean, honestly, I don't know, and I don't think I'm really all that creative. It's just I start thinking about things, and instead of brushing it off like, well, that's dumb. Let's just try something, and just there is no failure ever.
Okay. True.
I mean, there isn't. It's always
True.
If it's learning, you're always constantly learning. Today I'm learning. Every time I go photograph, I'm learning. It's all the time.
In images of yours that we will see later, I look at them and I'm thinking, yeah, this guy got a creative mind that I would love to know where he gets his inspiration from, where he gets his motivation from. You told me acid, it's okay. But what is it that keeps you motivated? I mean, you've been doing this since 87, professionally, correct?
Yeah, 80. Well,
87, 88.
80, yeah.
What keeps you motivated overall?
Because
these years?
It's my creative outlet. Same thing with music.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I did this for money during the 2000s when I photographed weddings.
Okay.
And I think I would love to make money at this.
Who wouldn't?
But that's not why I do it.
It's hard to do.
That was never the intent. So, it's like some people sketch, some people write poems, some people write songs. I have to photograph. You just, you just do it. It's just part of you. It's not anything I'm really conscious about. Lately, I've been doing a lot less of what I used to do, which was, hey, let's get some models. Let's go do a photo shoot. I haven't done that in years. Okay. I've got too many pictures like that. Now, if somebody wanted a portfolio that they needed for an agency or something like that, you can hire me. But as far as the TFP, let's go do something. Once I completed my master's a couple of years ago, I don't think I will ever photograph anything in that vein of, the model shoot if it isn't helping somebody else out. It's not, it would never be for me because there's nothing that I need. There's nothing, it just doesn't interest me.
Like myself, you begun in the film days.
Oh, yeah.
And now, is it safe to say that everybody basically shoots digital now?
No. I disagree with that only because I'm in MTSU and I see a real resurgence of film.
Wow.
It's hip. A lot of, I hate the hipster kids, but it's film's cool. Analog's cool. Records are cool.
Yes.
I don't know if it's, personally, I think it's more efficient than digital. I can explain that in a minute. Yeah. I think the other aspect of that is there's still, I think at least students are discovering the magic of that. It's not instant. You've crafted something. There's a tangibility to that I think is, magical, if you want to call it that. The statement I said, how I think it's more efficient to shoot film for me is how many filters or Instagram things or Lightroom plugins are trying to make stuff look like film. I mean, it seems like everybody's it seems like everybody's trying to make stuff look like film. I think it started with that Visco app or something like that. Well, I don't like sitting in front of the computer. I've been using Photoshop since 1994. A long time.
A long time,
Yeah.
yes.
And I don't like sitting in front of the computer at all. I'm more efficient if I shoot 2 rolls of film, run it down to the lab we have here in Nashville, and get my film back. They scan it. It's, I don't know, $25, $30. And then I just, process only. We don't get prints. And I've got a film scanner at home. So if I need something in bigger, I can scan that negative. But I have them just do the low res scan so I can see kind of a contact sheet, and which look great on social media. They're totally big enough for that.
Right.
But I'm like, you look at the scan and you go, yep, that's what I would have tried to do digitally. There it is, because it's film. That's what I was making it look like. So for me and my style, sometimes it's easier to shoot film and it's faster.
When I was in college, like you, the few months I was there trying to learn the finer points, we were told to shoot chromes because in chromes you had just a little margin of leeway that you could use to correct.
Right. Very little.
Film was larger.
5 stops.
And now with a digital, it's endless.
Almost.
So with chromes, you really had to learn how to shoot in order to get it right in the camera.
Yes, you do.
Is that what you're teaching your students now?
No, well, no, because I teach digital. But we talk about that a lot. Chrome was beautiful.
Yeah.
Chrome, you always bracketed. At least we did. When I was shooting, I've also worked for publications where we shot everything chrome. I learned a lot from my first real photography job, where I had to kind of be a jack of all trades. We were shooting portraits, we were shooting weddings, we were shooting food, we were shooting the perfume days. Oh, perfume day was fun because we were in a small little studio, and of course you start spraying it. And by about the 4th bottle out of 60, you're like,
what is the smell?
Headache.
What's that smell?
It's pretty funny. But and everything was shot on chrome. You pull your Polaroids and then you do your clip test and run it down to the lab and you get back. It's, and food, I'm so bad at shooting food. I'm so bad at that. But so I've been through all that. You learn about exposure really well.
Yes.
I love film, but I love digital. I'm not, it might come across that I don't like digital. Oh my gosh, digital is the best thing that ever happened to us. I don't have to carry around 3 cameras because now I can just flip my ISO. Which way do I want? Here's 400, here's 100, here's 800. Now it's just so simple. And now these cameras now see in the dark. Like ISO is a 32,000. And they not that grainy or noisy. It's blowing me away. And the creativity you can get. I remember the first time we shot with digital in the studio, and we were doing and this was on a Nikon D, I think they were called D1s at the time.
Okay.
This is 1999.
Yes.
Okay. And we had to do a illustrative piece for a business magazine for some, the article was something with technology. Okay. So we opened up like an old computer and did some macro shots of the circuit boards, and the motherboard. And after we got done with the shots, we're like, well, let's play. And we'd never done this because normally we were shooting on film. But since this was only running, maybe 3-inch max, let's go ahead and do it. So our boss kind of gave us leeway to do something. So we were like, set it on a tripod. Let's put it on 30 seconds. Okay, turn all the lights off in the studio. Okay, flash the lights on. Throw some yellow gels on there. Click. Move the tripod around. Turn the lights on. Do this. And then we'd all stand around and wait. And we'd be like, whoa, look at that. Let's try it for 27 seconds. And we were getting so excited. You've heard the whole, chimping. That you couldn't help it. It's like, because all of a sudden there's no Polaroid. It just magically appears. And you're like, we did that? That's what that does? We would have never tried that in 1,000 years with a Polaroid because we didn't want to waste the money.
Right.
And you're like,
Polaroids was not cheap.
no. And how do you guess the exposure of cranking lights, moving a tripod, flashing a couple of, you can't.
No.
I'm sure there's somebody out there that probably was metering and doing all this. Well, like 25. I'm like, there's something about this, the play that digital allowed us to have. You know, it's like me now going, well, let's add some fog. And people are, so you flash it, then you turn some modeling lights on. No fog machine. You don't need a fog machine. You just need a second exposure in the studio and just start doing this with the camera.
Well, okay.
Because you've already frozen the action.
Yes.
So the model's like, they're all cool. And now you've given her fog over the top of it because you've like shaken the camera at the floor for a second. And people are like, how's that work? And then you look at it, it's like, she's tack sharp. Because the flash stopped that. The exposure, that's what I mean. It's like the play. I would have never done any of this stuff without film. And now you use the digital camera as your Polaroid.
Right.
And go back to the film and you're like, oh. And now it's this great tool back and forth.
And that delete button on the back.
Never delete anything.
Never delete anything.
Never delete anything. Ever.
That's
some of my best photographs. Right now I'm in the process of going through my Lightroom catalog.
Okay.
Looking for some art. And like one of my best photographs I'm in and this is something I'd recommend to all photographers, is get into a peer group. And I'm part of a photo salon that we started in 2009, and we check each other. There's 7 of us. And one of the photographs, they're saying, fine art. This one's fine art. It ended up was a light test. That I was just testing some light. Now, that's one of my best artistic photographs. Now, if I would have, it was a light test, click, the model just stand there. I'm not even, I shot the cover, I didn't shoot. One of my photographs of my kids was picked for the cover of Rangefinder magazine back in 2013. It was a light test shot. It was just a light test. So it was not supposed to be the photograph.
Right.
At all. In fact, what I was photographing for was, there's no way this was going to be the shot. But in an artistic standpoint, it works. I think you can, and then years later, you can go back through stuff and rework images. A friend of mine's going through, he's doing a new book on, it's kind of a dark subject matter of death. And, he lost his wife not too long ago. And he's but he's going back to old images and reworking them. And it's funny, in the context now, these pictures are so much more powerful than they were when he shot them. You never know what you're going to have. And I say, don't delete anything, unless it's a blank, miss.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Wow.
So.
That is amazing. Wow. I mean, I'm real bad. If I take a shot, I don't like it. Okay, there's a delete button. Bing.
I mean, memory's cheap these days.
What memory do I have? Okay.
Well, no, I'm you know what I mean. Hard drives are cheap these days. Yeah, I don't know where my keys are either.
I don't know where my keys are. Okay, Chuckie, as I mentioned before, you were gracious enough to have some images just we could look at. What you did was you emailed me a folder with images and had me pick out some images. And I could have picked all of them. It was hard picking out just 5, so I may stump you, but...
Well, yeah, because I gave you a bunch of naked pictures. There's something to be said about, we're talking about models. That's something I wanted to bring up.
Okay. Real quick.
I used to photograph a lot of nudes.
Okay.
And artistic nudes.
Okay.
One of the reasons why I kind of stopped that is tattoos. It's like removing tattoos from people has just been a pain. I'm always going for that European old world. I want you to look at one of my photographs and go, when was this shot? It could have been shot in the 50s. It could have been shot. It should be timeless. Mm-hmm. I don't know if tattoos just bother me. And my brother-in-law is one of the best tattoo artists in Nashville, which is kind of crazy. But
I must say that I do agree with you wholeheartedly. I do. Yes.
It's just something that one of those things that kind of drive me crazy with models these days. So I'm always looking for no tattoos or small that you can get rid of.
And I get blasted so much. Okay, Chuckie, what are we looking at And here, because this is one that I really, really liked.
Cool.
What are we looking at
Well,
here?
it was that's Molly.
Molly.
Yeah. She's fun. She's one of my good friends.
Okay.
We're on my high school cross country where I used to run cross country.
Okay.
This was in mid-March, I believe, and it had snowed about 2.5 feet. And so we decided, I got my a friend of mine that's a hairstylist, my best friend who now lives in Italy. We always used to photograph together, like
Okay.
all the time, and I miss him so much. But got him to come out, and we basically just like, let's just do kind of a mock boudoir shoot out in the middle of the snow. Got an
Okay.
air mattress, threw some lights up, but this was all done to. I was teaching at WPPI back then, Wedding and Portrait Photographers International. Every year they have a convention, and so we filmed a lot of this for one of my presentations. I used to do a lot of lectures and teach at PPA schools, and so this whole thing was shot for having content for a presentation.
Okay.
So there wasn't any, that's the only reason it was shot for that. We just thought, hey, it snowed. Let's go out in the snow. And it wasn't that cold because it was, it's those days in spring where it snows, but then it's not that cold. It's not that windy.
Right.
It's not so bad,
Uh-huh.
and, so yeah, that's basically, and I teach a lot of lighting. So this was basically a lighting teaching moment.
That is so cool
So
of a photograph. I
thanks.
love an image.
So it's kind of like here, go back. What's the depth of field there? What's my aperture at? This is what I like to.
Oh, man. That I had not thought of.
There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. I mean, there is a right answer. There's no wrong answer.
I do love that you've got the background blurred. You're focused on the model herself. I mean, as you said, there's no wrong answer. Okay.
Well, so yeah, but you say 4? No. It's F11.
F11.
But this is one of those. I like the portrait photographers versus fashion photographers. I see a lot of portrait photographers shooting wide open or really shallow depth of field, and I remember judging prints at these, and a lot of the complaints is like, you need a little bit more focus, some sharpness. Stand back, use a telephoto. That's going to give you that depth of field,
Yes. Uh-huh.
but the model's going to be tack sharp. And if you look at fashion magazines, there's very little times the model isn't tack sharp.
Right.
There's a huge, there's one big problem with this image that, there's always a problem I always notice. And mine is she's amputated. This is something that I wouldn't have done.
No leg below the knee.
Right. This is a problem I see with posing a lot is foreshortening. I see a lot of people like with their arms coming towards you or something. That's one of my pet peeves. Or chopping off of appendages. And that's one thing that I wish I would have stuck her leg out a little bit more so you could at least see it.
Also, on the right-hand side of that image, is that a twig sticking up
I don't know.
by her right?
Oh, no, that's the bed frame.
Okay.
That's the bed post. Yeah. And we've got, I think, 3 lights on her there.
Okay.
So.
Okay, now. Retro, pinup, style look. I mean.
Yeah, that's her actual, she's a Southwest airline flight attendant.
How cool.
And she had a vintage Southwest.
How cool.
Yeah, and this is in, I think it's called Nelson, Nevada. Right outside of Vegas.
Wow.
Where they've got this, during WPPI, all the photographers drive out with people, and we just all go around, and she's like, the plane, let me put on my flight outfit, and that was it. And I was teaching, almost all of my pictures were photographed from either teaching a workshop or doing something like that. At least these 2 that you've shown. So this was just, we were out there with other photographers showing kind of lighting. But it was fun.
Okay, now this image is one that really caught my eye. and it's like you're going for.
This is old.
I don't even have the right word, but I love the image. It's kind of like you're going for a. Come on, a word come to my mind. The hairstyles, the gown, the look. It's French look.
Good. So this was a fashion shoot for a hair salon.
Okay.
And we were doing this and then, God, this is 2008, 2009. The whole spread, if you want to, story, fashion story,
Mhm.
was it was basically a modern version of Marie Antoinette.
Okay.
So perfect.
Okay. Yeah.
And, you'd have, Marie and the servants. We've got one picture where we've got two like broomsticks with a thing wrapped around her neck at the end, like off with her head,
Yeah.
where the two are walking and she's got this. So it's kind of it's like imagery of,
Oh,
that
man.
was the last picture. It was pretty cool too.
Oh man.
But yeah, that's what that was. Yeah, we had fun with this one. My wife did the makeup. The salon used to be called R Squared, then it was Lucy Pop, and I think she's just on her own now doing things.
Wow.
And yeah, Amber and Holly. There's the Skid Row shot that I was talking about.
Yeah. I saw this. I'm like, I have got to add this to your 5. I mean, come on.
Did we do it?
Yeah, you did.
You heard me describe it.
Every last bit of it.
And finding the location, I think, was the hard part, sort of hard part. That's about network. And this is at the Smith House down in Nashville, and I've done a lot of stuff there and have just gotten to know them over the years. So when something came up and I thought this would be the perfect place in this kind of smoking lounge to do this shot, I called them up and they allowed us to go in and photograph those.
That is so cool.
So it was a fun shoot. And
It had
again,
to be.
none of this was my idea. This was all Rachel's idea, the guy defusing the bomb. And I was just, let me execute it and let's see what we can do. And I love collaboration. You talk about creativity.
Mhm.
I think the best creativity is when you collaborate with people and work with a team.
Mhm.
Trying to come up with your own stuff. Sometimes it's okay, but I mean, if you've got a team of people around you that you can bounce stuff off of and then get wild, it's great. And again, throw the egos out the door. That's the
True.
Yeah.
True.
That's film. That's 120 film. Yeah, and that was for a stylist. And she just wanted some shots just to kind of get her styling portfolio.
Mhm. Okay.
So I knew Tawny, and my wife did the makeup and hair, and she brought all these clothes. And this was just right out. I had a shot there the other day, over in Smyrna, kind of on the way to Smyrna. It's one of the places where people go. There's a little dam there, and people go and swim. But
Okay.
you just elegance in nature, not too much other than that. Hang a little prop, but
I like that. Yes. I like that. I mean, you have got some awesome images there, Chucky. I mean, thank you for sharing those images with us. I mean, how ironic is that you told the story
I know that's fine.
about Skid Row,
glad
and then here I am with the image here up on the monitor. We did not plan that, okay? We did not plan this. But I mean, all of your images that we showed are just awesome. I mean, wow. Okay.
Well, thank you. I
Wow.
appreciate that.
I love that. Chucky, at this part of the show, I like giving our guests an opportunity to discuss and talk about any subject that you think that people brush under the rug or maybe too embarrassed to talk about. A subject that you think should be brought up to the forefront and talked about, that everybody is afraid to.
Give me a prompt. Politics, religion. I'm kidding.
Models have talked about mental health.
Okay.
They've talked about peer pressure. They've talked about self-confidence. What has a photography taught you about something that you didn't already? Has your photography taught you something about yourself that you didn't already
Let,
know?
no. I don't know. I can't answer that. That would be the long one, I think, to
Okay.
answer. But there is something that comes to, if we're talking about
Sure.
models,
Anything.
there's something that I loathe social media.
Okay.
I mean, I really do.
Okay.
I've been doing this for a while.
Yes.
I was gonna say so I post a photograph of a 14-year-old girl,
Okay.
model.
Right.
She's 5'11", and comments, she needs to eat a cheeseburger.
Mm-hmm. Body shaming.
It's and this is coming from, I was 6'4" when I was 14. I weighed maybe 150 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was a 27-inch waist, 36-inch length. I looked like a walking skeleton.
Mm-hmm.
I was an athlete. I was track athlete. I ate 3 pizzas a day. Nothing could make, that's just my body. I was 14, 15.
Right. Yes.
Caught up to me when I was 23.
Yeah.
And now it's this constant battle. But that was a terrible thing, because during that time, I was told you have to eat, even when you're not hungry, because you're so skinny. Thinking to myself, my son's exactly like me. He's 6'4" right now, skinny, runs cross country. And it's like, if he's not hungry, I'm like, dude, you're not hungry. Don't eat.
Right.
Because I'm hoping when he's 23, 24, he'll have better habits that we just didn't realize, I think, back in the day. Mm-hmm. It's what you do. But it really drives me crazy when people, that's one thing I would wish I could figure out a way to bring attention to that aspect of thin, that is, these girls are healthy
right now.
It's that they're, and some of that, I think, has to fall into the modeling industry. Mm-hmm. Also, it's, stop using 14-year-old girls to sell to 27-year-old girls. Because, again, it all went to hell at 23.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that pressure of me trying to look like when I was 18 or 14, mm-hmm. I've got a bad body shaming problem with myself. Ask my kids, they're just like, I think I'm like 30 pounds overweight. It's just, so that's one thing that I really wish, it's, don't take these comments so, and it's like, I hate that you have to read, I hate that models have to read what other people are saying, mm-hmm. because it's, most 14-year-olds are self-conscious,
right?
Especially if you're tall. I mean, be a 5'10", 14-year-old girl, and tell me how you feel. My daughter's 5'8", and she's 14, and she hates it, because she just feels like a freak. It's like, she's like, I'm like, trust me, when you're 22, you're gonna love
it. Yeah, you will.
But during this, and I think she's got a good enough head on her shoulders that it's not gonna, she doesn't, like, my kids are not on social media at all. No, nothing. And it's just one of those things that I think, if you're a model, you're putting yourself out there. And so you've kind of got to have a thick skin to deal with some of that stuff, which, and I've seen the successful ones and I've seen the shy ones. Mm-hmm. The successful models are, I remember this one 14-year-old girl, Taylor Atkinson, if you want to look her up, she's, a professional model now.
Okay.
I did one of her very first photo shoots. We were talking about modeling agencies and stuff like that, mm-hmm. earlier. And I remember after we were done shooting, for her portfolio. I went to her parents and we're just like, I feel like I'm talking to a 30-year-old. And she was so with it, so smart, so confident, so intelligent.
Mhm.
And you knew she was going to make it in whatever she did. Just that confidence of just, filter out all the junk.
Right.
And who knows what that is? Upbringing, I don't know. But she had it. There's other people that are very shy that are, I'm like, I'm not sure why you're modeling. It's like I think there's some that get into it for I need, look at me, look at me, look at
Yes.
me.
Yes.
And I'm like, if you're wanting people to look at you, you probably shouldn't be doing this. And that's, if you want me to give you an honest truth. I hate saying that, but it's, we even did a fashion thing where it was, wrapped around your face, the cover of it. I think I sent you a link to that spread.
Yes.
But the shirt was like, look at me, look at me. It was all about that kind of,
Yeah.
and then one of the last images, it was this designer that made clothes out of old posters from Abercrombie and Fitch. She would turn those into dresses. And then one of the outfits was, I'm more than a hashtag, I'm a human being. And I was like, that, this is what we were trying to say. And that was one of those magazine spreads we did, kind of one of those art magazine shots.
In your opinion, has social media hurt our industry or has it helped?
Both. I think social
what
media.
ways?
Well, I mean, it's obvious instant promotion.
Yes.
I mean, it's the whole world can see, even as a musician, it's like I can in technology also, but digital. I mean, I've shot in 3 magazines with my iPhone, my 5S. Okay, love it. Everybody's got a phone.
Sure.
Everybody's got a camera.
Sure.
If you know how to see light, you can make a good picture.
Yes. Yes.
It's like, that's, photographers, stop looking at the subject and start looking at the light. Period. That'll make you a better photographer right there. It's like, forget that you're shooting the Eiffel Tower and look at the light, because there's probably 1,000 pictures of the Eiffel Tower are awful. But we have to photograph it because, oh my gosh, look at that.
Yes.
But to your point, the social media, I think it's good and bad. It's like the bad things are obvious. The trolling, the shaming, the constant. I think it's turning people into the self. It's like we worship being worshipped. Think about that. That's not good, in my opinion. That is not good to want to be worshipped. And that's what we do. It's constant. I see it in my students. It's like they're, 6 years ago, I came into class and it wasn't everybody on their phone. We had these phones, but now it's everybody's on their phone. Nobody communicates anymore, at least in my class. And I have to I bring in vinyl and start playing records and try to, do something. But again, you've got a way to get your stuff out to the world. And so does everybody else. So there's an oversaturation. There's no editing. It's like music. There's 100,000 bands out there. How many good songs are out there?
Good point.
How many good it's like, how can I find a good band? How would U2 have ever made it today? I don't know, because would they have ever been found? Would they ever have been developed? It's like, how many albums did they get to before they got to the Joshua Tree? I'm just using U2 as an example.
Exactly right. Yes.
It's, because they were developed. Bands aren't, same thing I think with models. It's like, you've got 1,000 models posting I think I heard one of the other photographers talk about that. It's like, stop posting so much stuff that you had on your podcast not too long ago.
Yes.
And it was, it's a very valid point. Stop posting so much. It's, edit yourself. Maybe.
I think we live in the look at me generation time that you just said. Everyone wants to post this, post that. Look at me. It's okay. Well, don't you don't just have to just shove it down my throat, okay? Please.
Yeah.
And some do that too much. Sorry, but
Yeah.
some do.
And some shouldn't.
Right.
I think it's just, I don't know. I'd love to know where this, and I think it's just it's just a product of social media, that it's turning, ever since they're little kids now, it's, I need gratification from this. This is and then I don't know how many parents are checked out that, like, here's the iPad, it's like, it's one of the reasons why the series I'm working on with my 35 millimeters called Cul-de-sac. I purposely, when we moved from, I just used to live right down the street. I miss it so much. But we moved out to Walter Hill into a neighborhood, and I made sure that we lived on a cul-de-sac because I wanted my kids out playing.
Yes.
And there's something about that is conducive to that. And sure enough, we've got kids all around. And every night they're out playing kickball, they're out playing tag, they're out sidewalk chalk, and I'm documenting this, and it's really refreshing to see that. But you drive down the street, and I know kids, and you don't see the kids out.
Right.
And so it's like, we kind of, I made sure I set it up to where at least we might have a chance being on a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this,
yes,
kind of forces you to go out. And so maybe don't throw the iPad in front of your kid. Maybe spend a little more time. Everybody, it's this go generation.
Yes.
And it's like, we've got, the parents too. It's like, well, here, daycare here, it's like, I don't know. I'm kind of old fashioned.
Hey, I am too.
It's,
it's the best way to be.
I would, it's, I'm going to quote Dr. Laura.
Go ahead.
It's like, trust me, does the daycare love your kid more than you would? And what do you think the kid would want? To be in a daycare all day, or somebody that loves them? And I guarantee you the kid would rather be with somebody that loves them, even if you're making less money. I think that's better for the kid.
True.
And I'm Mr. Mom. Thankfully my job allowed me to kind of hang with my kids all the time. My wife she worked for MAC Cosmetics for 18 years as a manager, and now she's, sells cosmetics. But we kind of had a role reversal, sometime when she got this management job at MAC, and I kind of like, well, I'll be the girl and you be the guy in the traditional sense of things. But we're there for the kids.
Okay, Chuckie, if I may tap into your teacher side, your photographer side, for a young kid thinking about picking up a camera and learning photography, what is one bit of advice you can give that person?
Well, be excited about it. I mean, it's why. Let me put it this way. Why are you photographing? And I think the answer to that is to show others how to see something different that maybe they don't see. I always ask my students, what are we physically photographing? And the answer to that is a reflection of light. That's what we're photographing. Whether it be on a tree, whether it be on a person, whether it be on a building, whether it be on a river, whatever it is, we're photographing the reflection of light. And if you can see past the subject and start seeing light and shadow and the interesting things that does, the world's going to open up to you. And you're going to start not seeing things like, I mean, I always ask my son, it's like, we're driving at night. There's a tree there? There is? I'm like, exactly. Is there? It's that we don't see it unless there's light reflecting off it. But if I always use, like, if George Clooney walked in the classroom, and whatever celebrity they know now, I don't know why I go to Brad Pitt, Johnny Depp, he's popular right now.
Yeah.
If Johnny Depp walked in all in, the Captain
Jack
outfit,
Sparrow outfit.
You would want to photograph him.
Yes.
Because the spectacle of it. Would it be a good photograph of him? No, because the lighting's awful. You got overhead fluorescent lights and he's going to look terrible. There's going to be
Yes.
junk in the background. It's not a good picture of something interesting.
Right.
I always say that. People, what do you think of this? I'm like, it's an interesting subject, a terrible photograph of an interesting subject. And sometimes we've got to trick our brains into stop seeing whatever it is, whether it be a beautiful girl, a beautiful man, a beautiful building, a beautiful tree, whatever. Stop seeing that and start seeing the light reflecting off that to make something more interesting. And it's interesting when you start thinking about everything like that, you'll learn that everybody is photogenic. Everybody.
In their own way, yes.
I can go off on that forever. Everybody's photogenic, period. And I say that because what's a photograph for? A portrait. What's a portrait for? And I'm not talking a fashion magazine.
To me, it's a memory.
For who?
Yourself.
I say it's for your grandkids and your great-grandkids.
Yeah.
Because I have a grandmother who did a lot of this because she was overweight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care that she's overweight. She's my grandmother.
Right.
I have one photograph of her. It looks like this.
Yeah.
Now, this person to me was very important to me. I don't have anything I can describe her to my kids. They never knew her. And I don't have that because she was too self-conscious to do this.
Yes.
And unfortunately, too many people have been photographed badly that they think that they're not photogenic.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have time for a really quick story?
Real quick, we've got about 5 minutes left.
I'll do it.
Okay.
And I think this is important for photographers to understand. Kindergarten, kids' portrait day.
Okay.
All the kids get their pictures taken.
Yes.
The kindergarten teacher knows that I'm a photographer. I walk in the next day after this. I see portraits on each of the doors of the teachers.
Okay.
They're awful. Awful. I ask her, I go, so I see you guys got your picture taken. She goes, yeah. It's like, we just don't take good pictures. We're terrible. We're overweight. We're blah, blah. I'm like, here's the thing. Those photographers that go in and take portraits of kids, what happens? Okay, you've got a light set up for a kid that's this tall.
Right.
And all of a sudden, they've been taught, here's lights. We're in a studio.
Right.
Here's a camera. Well, here, sit down and get your picture taken. Well, every one of these people was uplit because they're taller.
Right.
So we've monster lit every person, but those photographer didn't know that because they've just told there's a light. That's the one thing. It's like, get your lights higher, people. Photographer, I see them out shooting. It's like, I just want to go raise their lights up. And I tried to tell her, it's like, no, everybody just monster lit you. You're a bad photographer. But that person, that kindergarten teacher, was photographed by a professional photographer. And if a professional photographer can't take a good picture of them, what do you think they think? Well, I had to explain, they're not really a professional photographer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a shame.
Yes, it is. Chuckie, for the people that want to reach out to you and contact you on social media, how may they contact you?
Well, not by Facebook because it's private. I do have I've got 2 Instagram accounts. One I hardly ever post on. One's just at Chuck Arlund. The best way to look at my stuff, I've got a new website called Think Chuck. It's easy. Mm-hmm. And then that's turning into my portrait site. And then I'm going eventually, I have a website, chuckarlund.com, which they're coexisting right now, but that's going to become my just my fine art work, which is basically what I'm concentrating on now. But thinkchuck.com. Okay. And that's got links to everything.
Good. I love having all of my guests on the show, but as I have said numerous times, whenever I've got a fellow photographer on here I can talk with, it's like waking up on Christmas morning. I absolutely love it.
I even brought you presents.
Yes, you did, and I thank you for that, too.
Welcome.
Thank you for that. Chuckie, you have been just an absolute fantastic guest. I appreciate you so much for being here, talking with me, sharing your stories, showing wonderful images. Chuckie Arlund, you are awesome, and not mean that with everything that I have in me. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you very much.
It's great. Thank you for tuning into the Model Nation podcast. Please like, follow, and subscribe on social media and everywhere you get your podcast. Links are in the description. Thank you, and bye-bye.